segment 1. Alright, so the first part, normally the teacher has had the interpreter sitting in the front of the classroom, and what happens is the student comes in on the first day of class and sits all the way in the back. And then, so I stand up to start interpreting so the student can see me, and the teacher kind of gives me a look and asks what I'm doing. And I think in this case I would just explain, that I'm standing up so the student can see me. And it's the first day of class, so obviously things aren't gonna, they still need to work things out with each other, so at that point I would probably just, explain again, because this teacher has apparently already had deaf students before, but I would explain again that I need to be placed where I'm visible by the student. And in this case, I needed to stand up. So if he didn't feel comfortable with me standing, then he would have to move. The student would have to move to the front or to the side of the classroom that I'm on. Yeah, so I think I would just explain that to the teacher, and hopefully they would understand. Okay, so we have a gym class with male and female students, and they both need to go get their locks from the locker room. And I think in this case I would just go one at a time. I would, take all the group of girls and take them to the locker room, get them their locks, and then come back, and then take the guys over and help them find their locks, or get their locks and everything. Since obviously can't be at both places at once. So this is the one about the football practice, and the coach is telling me not to interpret what one of the students has said, and I think I would probably just go ahead and interpret it anyways, because that's what's being said. Everyone else heard it, so I think the deaf students should know what's going on as well. And maybe I would just fingerspell it instead of using the sign, because kids always want to find out what the signs are for all the bad words anyways, so by fingerspelling it they wouldn't be able to pick up on it anyways. And also the coach would have no idea if I interpreted that or not, just because, well, unless he knew sign language, which I'm guessing he doesn't. So yeah, I think I would go ahead and interpret what was said, but I would choose to fingerspell it instead of using the actual sign. Alright, so it's a conference with the parents of a student that I'm interpreting for. But the student hasn't shown up yet, so the mom's asking me questions, and wants to find out more information about her daughter's sexual behavior. And, but she says she's not going to confront the daughter about it. She just wants to know what's going on. And she knows that her daughter respects me and tells me a lot of stuff. So, I think in that case I would tell her that it's not necessarily, that's a conversation that she needs to have with her daughter. That isn't really something that I'm not really in the right position to be telling her or talking about this stuff, especially when the daughter's not there in the room yet. I think I would just tell her that I'm not in that position to have this conversation, and that it's really something she needs to discuss with her daughter. And yeah, she's saying that she won't confront her daughter about it, but ultimately, depending on what I tell her, she's going to end up confronting her daughter anyways, if she wants to get birth control or whatever. So I think I would just tell her that it was not my position, and she needs to have that conversation with her daughter. Alright, so this number 5 is about an EIP or IEP meeting, and I was interpreting for a student and her parents who are all deaf, and they kind of got in an argument. And after the meeting, another interpreter comes up to me and asks what happened, because they could tell that the parents were really upset. And I think, again, just like the last number 4, I think I would tell the interpreter that what happened in the meeting was confidential, and it's not my business to tell anyone. So it's not. I would just explain that to the interpreter, and they should understand. If they're an interpreter as well, they should know that what happens in those meetings isn't something to be discussed or talked about outside of the classroom or outside of the meeting.